we'll edit out the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, of me coming over here. Okay, well, hello, IRLS 521 students. Welcome to the second in a series of lectures or talks with some experts in different aspects of children's and young adult literature. And today I have with me Joe Buenker, Associate Librarian at Arizona State University, and Joyse Martin, who is the Director of the Labriola National American Indian Data Center, and she's going to explain to you what that is. But the topic of today's conversation is children's and young adult literature with Native American characters, or that is talking about some aspect of a Native American culture, and examining cultural authenticity and bias in these types of works. And so to start off, let's just do a little bit of introduction. Joe, why don't you tell us what you do here at Arizona State University and what your particular interest is in terms of Native American literature?
Okay, thanks. I've been with the ASU libraries for about 8 or 9 years, and I'm currently the English librarian at the Tempe campus. I do have a long-standing interest in Native American literature, both adult literature and children's literature. I've read a lot more adult literature, but I am interested in children's literature, which I'll get into a little bit later. My real exposure to Native American literature actually started as an undergraduate at Arizona State University on the West Campus. I took a course there in 1990-91 that was team taught by a husband and wife. It was a really good course, and pretty much ever since that course, I've been reading Native American authors. And I'm happy to say that in the last 20 years, the list of authors keeps growing and growing, which means I'm not close to being done reading my options out there. But again, I really learned about Native American literature through a course, exposure through a course, but I've really been a self-motivated reader since then, simply because I think there are numerous Native writers that are amongst the best writers out there today.
And you have a particular interest in one author, and who is that?
That is Louise Erdrich. I've been doing research on her for close to 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've been putting together a bibliography of where she's been published and criticism and interpretation written about her. I actually have a lot of this information freely available on a website.
Okay, we'll post that website to our course area so you can take a look at it.
But besides Erdrich, I'm interested in Native American lit in general. And again, I think it's great that this kind of literature is getting more popular. It's getting its way into libraries a little bit more and becoming more commercially successable.
Cool. Well, fantastic. And Joyse, how about you? Tell us what you do here at ASU.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about the Labriola Center. I'm a librarian here at the Labriola Center, and the best way to describe this center is a library within a library. Mm-hmm. So we are located within Hayden Library on the ASU campus, and we collect material on American Indian issues throughout all of North America. Mm-hmm. And so that would, of course, include literature. And one of our main goals here in the Labriola Center is to support the classes that are being taught here at ASU that touch on American Indian issues in any way. So that would include the English department and literature classes.
Mm-hmm. And you collect all ranges of literature as well, right? Children's all the way up to adult?
Right, that's right. We do. We collect a variety of American Indian authored children's books, adult fiction, as well as DVDs that are produced and directed, written, acted in by mm-hmm. American Indians.
Cool. And do you have a particular interest in a particular aspect of American Indians or Native American culture that led you to become the director of this center?
Well, actually, my history and background started here at ASU, working with a faculty member on the Museum Studies department, mm-hmm. and Ann Headland, and her main focus was Navajo weaving. Uh-huh. So when I was working with her, and she was the major professor that I worked with, that's how I really developed an interest in American Indian cultures of the Southwest. So from there, and then I've always had a strong interest in libraries, started working in the special collections department when I was a graduate student, and just continued on in my career in library science.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for those introductions. What I think is really evident is, these are two folks that are from my workplace here at Arizona State University, and they have this giant expertise in this particular issue. And so as a library school student, I would encourage you to really take a look at the community around you and see who are the experts in the areas that you're interested in. That's why I called upon Joe and Joyce. I asked them if they'd be willing to do this talk because they know this stuff, and I want to make sure you all have the very best instruction in terms of this particular topic. So let's dive right into some content. Let's start with the first question, which is if you guys could talk a little bit about the history of depiction of Native Americans in children's and young adult literature. Is there any kind of trend or things that you're seeing or looking back historically? How have the depiction of Native American characters or Native American cultures been, has it changed, and where is it going?
I guess I'll start off. One thing I will say is that historically, the depictions of Native Americans were not very positive, even in things like young adult literature or children's books. Joyce and I have talked about one particular book that is interesting. It's called Native American Picture Books of Change. And what it does is it goes through and it looks at about 55 or 60 titles that were written somewhere between like 1915 and 1955 about. Most of them were authored by people affiliated with the Bureau of Indian Affairs or the U.S. Department of Education that was somehow affiliated with a reservation school. Almost all of the authors were Anglo. The illustrators of a lot of these books, though, were Native American. And so there wasn't a lot of control about how Native Americans were depicted in terms of the Native authors themselves. There were illustrators that were doing these types of work. A lot of them were coming through art programs, like down in Santa Fe, where they would be singled out as a very talented artist for an author that was working on a young adult novel or a children's book. And so there was some interest in kind of getting those books together in one, and this Native American Picture Books of Change does a really nice job of that. But what I can say in general about early depictions of Native Americans were when you're not controlled, you're not consulted in the process, and it's a quote-unquote outsider writing about you. Sometimes the depiction isn't very sensitive, if you will, just because people are uninformed. Other times it might be outright purposeful, like someone really truly wanted to depict a person or a group in a negative way. A lot of times Native Americans were depicted in not just children's books, but obviously the mainstream press, as childlike, as not very intellectually capable. They were also depicted as kind of frozen in time, that this culture, if it existed at all, it was no longer advancing, developing, changing, that they were, fixed in time like the frontier times, and that essentially we were taking care in documenting this group or this individual because we all knew that they were going to die out. So there were not a lot of real positive examples of Native Americans in the mainstream press, like I said, or even just in children's books. And oftentimes it was because, in my opinion, the authors of these books really didn't have an understanding of the groups. A lot of these books were authored with the authors never having stepped foot in the community that they were depicting, or they had very limited exposure. It was kind of like a weekend visit, and now I'm an expert and I'm going to write this book. Granted, a lot of these books were intended to be whimsical, illustrate something, a story, a tale, an idea. They weren't considered to be individually like really serious topics, but when you have dozens or hundreds of books that collectively depict a people in a